All right, everybody. Well, happy August. Welcome to First Wednesdays. I'm Gretchen Hydo, Master Coach. Really happy to be with you all today. Tonight, we're going to talk about the enrollment edge and how to connect authentically and create clients. One thing, just quick housekeeping. I want to let you know that this is going to be uploaded publicly onto YouTube without any edits. So if you don't want your face seen or your voice heard, just turn off your camera then and click mute. But you know how I am. I love it when people participate, so that's even better. I was expecting kind of a smaller group tonight just because I know it's August and a lot of people are still on vacation, but we are going to use this time to really workshop and to see what's going on with client enrollment. And we're just going to talk through whatever it is that comes up for all of you. I have some things prepared, but let's just use this time in a way that makes the most sense. And so, one thing that I am wondering is when we're thinking about client enrollment and what makes client enrollment actually work, here's something that I'd love to know from all of you. You can put it in the chat, you can unmute. When you even hear that you have to do client enrollment, what comes up for you? What do you immediately think about?
Can I go
Well,
first? All
go for it.
Carol, Nick,
right,
Liz.
Nick. I'll just say quickly. I find when I have a client engagement coming up, I get excited. There's this, I guess it's my extrovertedness.
Yeah.
I want to engage with a client, customer, whoever it is, just to have the energy and clarify what we're doing and where we're going. So that's just enthusiasm and excitement, really.
Yeah, enthusiasm and excitement. That's great. Nick, what about you?
Well, in the past, I think I would have had a lot of trepidation because I'd be worried about, okay, is this going to be creepy or stuff that you and I have talked about, but is common with others as well. That okay, am I coming across as a salesperson or whatnot? But now I think my biggest concern is where do I find these people, or how do I make sure I'm being efficient or putting myself in places where I will have a higher chance of finding people who want to work with me.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the where do I find these clients? What about you, Layla?
Probably a combination of both. It's interesting when you say client enrollment, part of my brain goes, I've already enrolled this person, and maybe that's the contracting piece. And there's the other piece of me that's thinking like finding the client to enroll them. So my brain splits into two places when I say client enrollment. I tend to have a little bit of anxiousness around it and wanting to really make sure that I'm landing the right client, the right time, the right way, with the right consistent framework. So I feel confidence behind this engagement is working. I can replicate this. So that's where the anxiousness comes from me, is the replicating that framework for success and ease and flow. So I ease off of the anxiousness. I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm going to do. I know how this is going to flow. And if it's the right client, it'll be the right, synergistic situation. If not, it's not the right time or the right person.
100%, 100%. Hi, Lindsay. Good to see you. So we're talking about client enrollment and what comes up when you think about client enrollment. And everyone's had kind of a varied answer. And what you said, Layla, about, well, there's two parts. It's sort of, where do I get the client? Where do I find this person? And then when I'm going to have the conversation, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing to replicate that? And that's it with Errol. He said, that there was some enthusiasm there. And my guess would be that that's at the part when there's already a conversation on the books, not necessarily where am I going to find this client to enroll. And Nick, it was a combo of both. What about you, Lindsay? How do you feel when you hear client enrollment or thinking about it?
Well, that's why I'm here, because no matter how often we do this, like, I need to keep hearing it. It's always nerve-wracking because you want to put your best foot forward, but also make sure that you don't have any attachment and say, if you're going to be my client, great. If not, great. Right. But that's the hard part.
Yeah. And I'll even tell you too, because we're a small group and amongst friends, just out here, one coach to another. Even for me, all these years in, there's different days that I feel differently about client enrollment. I always do feel the excitement about getting to help somebody, really getting to support them with whatever their big vision is. But as a coach, even a seasoned coach, once in a while, the part about, well, where's the next client going to come from? What do I have to do? I need a different list. I need to ask this person for that thing. The repetition of it all, that it actually never ends with client enrollment, can sometimes feel a little bit like Groundhog's Day, really just Groundhog's Day, like, okay, got all these clients and then, well, I don't have that many clients, or where am I going to find the clients? And so I don't think it matters seasoned, not seasoned. I think a lot of what matters with this is the attitude that you're going into it with. And are you willing at every stage to still be a learner, to still be someone that's willing to try something new? And so for me, one of the things that I know works really well in my own career is to be willing to try something new, to be willing to do it in a way that I haven't before, to be willing to put myself still in situations where it's out of my norm. It's not maybe the thing that I would always do to find clients. Maybe I try different things, see if it works. And that all of that is okay. But today, what we want to do, I really wanted to see for all of you what feels the hardest with all of this, what feels the most exciting. And I think that we've done that. So like I said, let's make this just kind of an open workshop tonight. But here's something that I have noticed, and I've noticed it more than ever in the last 6 months with all of the coaches that I'm talking to. People are feeling a lot like the industry has changed. Are any of you feeling like that the industry has changed? I see some nodding heads. I see some
I don't know. It's still early on.
Still early on. Okay. Oh, I'm going to lower my own hand. All right. Hi, Kate. Good to see you. Well, here's what I've heard from many coaches about the industry right now. Hi, Kate. Nice to see you. Is that a lot of them are feeling like it's pretty saturated with coaches who aren't trained, who don't necessarily know what coaching really is, and that they're feeling like people are taking much longer than before to make any kind of buying decisions. Is coaching necessary right now? Especially with the addition of AI and those sorts of things, that where we really had a lot of people signing up for coaching over COVID because there wasn't a lot else to do. Now, a lot of people might be using their discretionary income for other things. And I thought about that, and I was thinking about even what I've been seeing. I've always thought that coaching is kind of a oversaturated market, but that the good coaches will rise to the top. So for that part, I'm never really concerned with that. I also don't think a lot about competition. And the reason for that is that we all come at this different. My client is going to be different than Layla's client, different than Errol's client. We're all attracting different people. So I do believe that the right coach is out there for the right person. That part I'm not so worried about. And even with AI, when I'm thinking about a lot of people that might be doing self-coaching these days with their AI robots, it's never going to replace the human connection. But we have to really talk about these different things and what we're seeing and what feels hard about it so that we can get the wheels turning to make new choices. Because with every turn in an industry, there is another choice to be made. There is something that's going to stand at the forefront. And so I wanted to just put that out there. What are you guys seeing in the industry today? Because what we're going to do with this is really tie it all into, and how do we still enroll? How do you still enroll clients with all that's going on? So I said a whole bunch there. What are you hearing and what are you seeing? Errol, I see your head really nodding.
Quite a bit of different things are going through my mind. Yes, I'm hearing the saturated argument as well, but I remember years ago when I went into the insurance industry as a salesman, the same thing occurred, and like you said, there's a phrase we used to use back then: "Cream always rises to the top." so I come to this with that kind of confidence and so on. So I'm not concerned or worried at all. Because like you rightly said again, there is a something about the value added that I bring to the table that nobody else has and can bring because that's me. And,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. And that's the part, the cream rises to the top, the value that we bring, the human connection. And this is in any kind of industry, not just with coaching, what you're saying, from your time spent in sales, that the people who are good at their craft and good at connecting are going to be able to still enroll. Someone else, what are you hearing in this?
I well, first, Errol, I really like that phrase. That's really helpful. But thinking about this question, this topic, I was recently talking about coaching to some other people, and it's no one wants a coach until they need it. And and I'm just really just kind of thinking off the cuff here, that with all these challenges in the world, that may push people who never thought about coaching into thinking, wow, I've hit a wall. I don't know what to do here with my business or with whatever. I need some help. I'm going to consider things I've never considered before.
Yes, yes. Anytime the heat gets turned up, yeah, people do hit the wall, or they just have things that they're really curious about. And coaching, that is where we really come in. Who else? Anything else that you want to add to this before I kind of go to the next part?
I'm having a little bit of a different experience, but again, we're all different in our practices. My practice has been very, very slow this year, and I've been talking to a lot of other leadership coaches, executive coaches in my space and in my proximity and beyond. And they've said similar. The rifts are impacting me, being someone who has been doing sponsored executive coaching, leadership coaching. It is a very crowded space. There's a lot of people calling themselves coaches, but they're consulting and selling products, services. But also, what I'm hearing from these coaches is they're diversifying their revenue, that the bulk of their revenue is absolutely not coming from one-on-one coaching, that they have to diversify, doing speaking, selling a product or framework, doing speaking engagements in academia, other places, and a lot of subcontracting. That's what I'm hearing, is the supplementation, that the main bulk of the business is not from their own practice. That's what I've been hearing for the past 6 months. And so I'm trying to diversify so that I don't feel that pressure to have to coach and land. That's what, just leads me into survival mode. But that's what I'm hearing in my space from coaches from New York to Chicago to like all different places. And there's a lot of selling. There's a lot of coach selling frameworks, products, services, how to do something, and training happening is what I'm seeing. So that's what my experience has been. Very, very slow for the past 8 months, actually dating back to Q4 when the rifts really started to ramp up.
Yeah, yeah. I had seen a slowdown as well. What I've noticed in the last 6 weeks is the build again. I always call it the rubber band, that I've loaded that rubber band, that at some point it's gonna ping and everything snaps back. And I'm at the snap back part. But historically, July is slower in the coaching world. Same thing with December. This year though, that window was longer,
Yeah.
it was longer, but here's something else that I'm noticing even from this conversation, diversifying. Yes, we're coaches. And one of the things that as a coach, we help our clients with is to figure out identity and what it is that they're here to do. And so coaching is one part of what we can do. But when we're being hired, I think of it kind of as like a trusted strategic guide. To be somebody's trusted strategic guide, there are many ideas that can come from that. And Layla, you named a lot of them, whether it's facilitating, teaching, training, a product, speaking, whatever that might be, that goes under this umbrella of learning and professional and personal development. And so when we think about this with enrollment, one thing I would encourage all of us to do is to be thinking about coaching and What is the cherry on top? What is the thing that when we're speaking to our potential clients, even our past clients, what are they needing right now that maybe they didn't need before?
Mm.
Yeah.
It helped me also in my identity, also not limit myself in a box, because it really, in these conversations I'm having now for the past 3 months, and asking the client, what do they need? They feel much more flexibility when I can do training, facilitating, coaching, consulting, whatever it might be. They don't have to go somewhere else if I can give them one of those options that fits the rubric of what they need.
That's it. That's it. And so with this, when I was putting this together for tonight, I really want to hit on communication. Trying to coach and to be a coach that can connect, coach, and enroll, you have to be able to communicate. And so, however, your first form of communication is going to be, whether you're texting someone, emailing someone, reaching out on LinkedIn, making a phone call, being given as a reference, whatever that could be, being referred, we need to be clear on what we're communicating and the high value that coaching is. And so here's what I mean by that. I have, you all know I work with a lot of coaches. I had a coach send me one of her outreaches because she was wondering, what's happening? Why am I not getting any traction here? And her outreach just said something like, "Dear Gretchen, we haven't talked in a while. Let's connect." And so when she and I talked about that, I said, well, that's one way to go about it, but what are you trying to communicate? Why would this person want to connect? And so when we slow down and we think of communication as the umbrella of everything that a coach does, that I think can open the door, because as a good communicator, we can ask powerful questions. We do reflective listening. We are willing to communicate what it is that we are able to do, how we can give and serve, be it speaking, consulting, teaching, training, facilitating, whatever it might be. We can ask the person that we're talking to where their need is and reflect it back to them. But in good communication, there's a give and take. There's, reciprocation on both sides of that. And that's what I feel like these days has been missing in most potential client enrollment and client enrollment conversations, is a good balance of the communication. And I wonder, everyone on this call, you've had clients at this point. What are you hearing? What are you hearing in what I'm saying with that, with the communication? And communication being the umbrella.
I think slowing down to understand intentionally what we're trying to communicate in that 30, 45 minutes, 60-minute conversation.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's the framework so that it's I can replicate it, because often I'm doing too much. Often I'm not reflective enough so that I can reflect back and highlight and that need for the person, so they really understand. Or we've fast forwarded, we've had a conversation before, and I am providing with the coaching experience and say, do you want more of this? So it's really understanding intentionally, what am I, and having the balance of being in coaching presence and in flow, but at the same time being reflective, intentional about what you're going to accomplish in that call.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing upfront, because that's what I think has me going in different directions in the call. It's not replicatable because I'm not doing the same thing every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I need to slow down in order to speed up, in the sense of optimizing this conversation, knowing, like, I had one yesterday and signed on the client, but I knew exactly what I was going to do in the call.
So you went in knowing, and it's sort of like having an idea beforehand of what might be co-created.
Yes.
Here's what I've noticed when coaches are not communicating effectively, some of the pitfalls that they fall into, it can turn into overteaching instead of communicating and connecting. And so when we get a potential client and we're trying to overteach them and we're trying to tell them and we're trying to convince, we've taken away communication, real back and forth communication. So that's one pitfall. The second pitfall is the skipping straight ahead, where you're trying to pitch, where it's like, oh, and here's why you should do coaching, and here's why it matters, instead of being really curious. And I love all the hearts, thank you. Instead of being really curious and connected to what the person in front of you might be saying. And so I noticed that. And then the third was avoidance. When we're communicating and we're having a connected conversation, we don't have to worry about avoiding the natural next step, which might be the invitation to a coaching call, from your connection call to actually coaching the person. It might be an invitation to work together. But when we've skipped communication and connecting, we're also going to avoid the actual part where we can propose, because it's one of those things, then we're just too worried about it. And so the slowdown to really be able to effectively communicate is what helps our potential clients to feel seen, heard, helped, and valued. And that is the basis of coaching. If we have these conversations with people, even outreaches with people, where they feel seen, they feel understood, they feel like we already helped them a little bit just in our email exchange, it's something that is provocative. You can't necessarily do that by just throwing something into ChatGPT and hoping that it's going to solve all of your, problems with client enrollment. You have to slow yourself down. If you are using ChatGPT to help you write the email, no problem, but you still have to be able to prompt it in a way that helps it to be thoughtful. And so the thing that I really want you to be thinking about tonight when we're talking about these potential clients and potential enrollment calls is, how can you be a good communicator? Because good communicators are good coaches. I see a lot of nodding. Go ahead and unmute and just telling me what you're hearing in this.
Yes on all three, and I want to write it on a Post-it so I can remind myself of it when I have these calls, like speaking directly to me, for sure. And you're right about the avoidance piece. The client tends to close themselves or ask for the next step when you're on the right path in connection. I've never had to go forward with it. They've asked me, so what's next? What do we do? How much does it cost? That.
Yeah. And if they're not asking, we didn't communicate enough. There wasn't enough. There was something that was missed, whether it was the curiosity, whether it was the connection, whether it was the pointed question, whether it was reflecting back. But when we look at our communication and what would make us the most effective communicators, we have to remember that it's the connected communication that leads to the actual coaching contract. That's the piece. And that's the part that if we can get excellent in our communication, you can get excellent at your client enrollment.
I have kind of two different thoughts about this. One is there's some, agitation and anxiety about this idea of, having to diversify. If we think of ourselves as communicators first and coaching is one of our services. On the other hand, when we think of good communication, I'm wondering if at least for me, it's kind of helpful to think about it with a different word or phrase like emotionally neutral or emotionally level, people. And the reason I say this is, and I don't like that phrase, I need to come up with something better, but the idea is, there is so much chaos and uncertainty that, of course, all of our clients are being pulled into non-connected conversations. Everyone's talking about, what's the return on value? They want numbers, they want all this stuff. And I think it's our job to keep that emotional presence, that emotional base foundation, to help them pause and step back. And in that, I think is an opportunity for us to do business.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said there. And what it reminds me of is you use the word disconnected when potential clients, the person that we're speaking to, is pulled in all of these, maybe you didn't say disconnected and I just heard disconnected, is pulled in all of these different directions, they can become disconnected and disconnected from themselves. And so when we have a connected conversation where communication is the highest value, what that does is it lets them drop in to maybe some of the things that they've been pushing away, or maybe some of the things that they haven't said in a long time or have been embarrassed by, or whatever it might be, or even just to organize their own thinking. But that communication, creating the connectedness, it can be seen as the umbrella, or you can look at it the other way too, that you're a coach who specializes in communication. Depending, for yourself, just when we're thinking of client enrollment, it always involves good communication.
There's a phrase I read in a book years ago. It was about conflict, but I think it applies here as well. And it's lending someone your cognitive resources. And usually in the coaching world, we think, cognitive is versus heart. But like, I think in this case, everything, it could be emotional resources as well. I think that's what we are, or at least that's what we can lend our clients.
And I like to think about that as generosity and clarity in a conversation. We can really lend that to our clients. When we are communicating effectively, there is a spirit of generosity there. There is a spirit of clarity that can come through that potential clients and our current clients will receive when we step out of trying to prove our worth. Because when we get in there and we're trying to prove our worth, this is all the reasons that you should work with me, we're missing that part. We're missing the piece that will help the client to go deeper. We're missing the piece where we're a generous listener. We're a generous participant on the other side.
You plucked that right out of my head. I was thinking it and you said it. And what activated that for me was the overtraining.
Yes.
Which triggered me to be reflective of what part of me is leaning into limiting beliefs or imposter thoughts or something else. I think I have something to prove. They got on the call because they already see value in me uniquely versus being on a potentially enrollment call with another coach.
Yeah.
So they're halfway sold because they're already on the call. They're halfway ready because they're on the call. So it's just creating that space for reflection for both of us to see if it's a fit. The coaching comes after. So how much overtraining or overcoaching am I doing in these sessions is probably 50% of the reason why I'm not getting to the answer fast enough. I could probably even get to no's faster to get to yeses faster by not having to have a follow-up conversation or an hour conversation with someone.
If you were really slowed down, and you had said,
Yeah.
They're halfway sold, and I like to think of it as they're halfway served. They're already halfway served by the time they get to us. And when we get to talk to them, if we've slowed down and had the effective communication, they can be all the way served. And when we do that, then it's like you've said, that we don't have to do a lot of follow-up with the clients. The clients that want to work with us ask for the next steps, and they want the breadcrumb trail. The ones who have no intention of working with us, they don't ask questions. And what I know from that is that typically it means that there was something off in my communication. Not because every single person is going to want to work with me, but if they don't ask any questions about what working together would look like or say anything, I've missed it. I have not been an effective communicator. So then how would I ever be able to coach them? They haven't had enough of an experience, and it's probably because of something that's happening in me that day. And that's really the truth. So think about this. When you are with your potential clients, or you want to reach out to clients, how do you want them to feel about you? How do you want them to feel when they open the email, when they jump on that, 30-minute connection call? Let's have some descriptors there, because your communication can directly help them to feel those things.
I definitely want them to feel empowered.
Empowered.
Like, this is a courageous first step. I'm doing something for myself that I need. This is a smart move. This is the right person for me to talk to learn more. I feel comfortable. I'm going into this open-minded. I'm trusting this person with some information I'm going to share, but I feel good about it. have a feeling about Layla. Like I have a feeling that this is my person. Those are the things I kind of want to cultivate, but also the urge for needs expression, that urgency to be able to express something they haven't been able to express with someone else. Those are kind of the things, like that urgency on their behalf, not mine. Like the urgent, like readiness and urgency. I that's what I'm trying to cultivate.
For me, one of the things that's really important through email, through anything that I'm doing with somebody, I want them to feel valued and validated. Validated that it is okay to be right where they are in this specific moment of their life. Validated in their experience, validated that they're at the beginning or the end of something, validated that they don't have all of the answers. And in that validation, it usually creates value. And I know when it's been done well because people then have another question or there's that pause. And when I am communicating well, there's space in the conversation for the potential client to be able to think deeper, to not just have me blah, 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 blah. No one can get anywhere in their own mind with that. And then they find themselves nodding and saying yes, when we don't know if they really are thinking yes. They're just nodding because the person's talking so much. So valued and validated. And I like to do that from email number one, reach out number one, conversation number one. Who else? How do you want your clients, potential clients, to feel when they have an experience with you?
I love what you just said, Gretchen, because my first thought was I want them to have like an excited curiosity. But there's also the moment of reminder that like it's okay to be where you are. Like I think people are always searching for the next thing. And something you said, Nick, of like people feel like, oh, why do I need coaching? They have to want the coaching, which we've learned from Gretchen. So I think that's really helpful to remember. Like it's great where you are, but having that, like validate them and then having that excited curiosity, like to see what the possibilities are after that.
Yeah, good.
It's what I'm thinking is, and I mean, it's funny, but it makes total sense that it's aligned with what my previous comments, and that is I want them to feel calm and hopeful. That here they are, they're stressed, they're pulled in multiple directions, they don't know where to go, or they're frustrated, or there's so much uncertainty. I'm going to have a conversation or read an email from Nick. I can relax, and maybe we can find a way out of this together.
Everyone here has had something just a little bit differently of how we want our potential clients to feel. And this is why I say there really is no competition, because we're all coming at it from a different feeling point of what we're bringing. So take a minute and write down your words. What was it that you said? So for me, it was valued and validated, calm and hopeful for Nick, empowered, like write it down. And then underneath it, I want you to think about what that means about your communication style. What do you have to bring to the conversation to create that? So if I want my clients to feel valued and validated, then I'm going to do a lot of reflective listening. And I'm probably going to do a lot of summarizing as well to help them feel like I'm in this with them, that I really get what they're saying. I'm going to be present in the conversation and I'm going to slow it way down. So even if you think back to coaching school and some of the coaching skills that you've learned, what are some of those that you can use to boost your own communication levels in email, text, and live when you're with a potential client to help them feel the things that you just said? One of my favorites to help my clients feel valued and validated is to listen for what they're saying and then use one of their words to ask a powerful question with, because then it's their own language and it can help them to go deeper. And then to ask them, what are you hearing in your own answer? Because that can help a person feel really validated in their experience. Let me know if any of you are stuck with this, if we need to workshop it a little bit.
Can you give an example of that last mention about use the word of the question, then reflect the question back to them? Can you give us an example
Yeah.
of that?
So earlier you said something like, it's been really slow the last 8 months. It started in December. And that, there's been some uncertainty. And I might say something like, Layla, I can really hear that, business has not been necessarily what it was before, and that you're feeling some uncertainty. Say a little bit more. And so I pull from what the client's words were, because when we hear questions in our own words, it really helps our own internal, with the potential client's internal regulating system to calm down and to feel psychologically like the person is in it with them. When coaches try to perform and they use a lot of words that aren't in the client's vocabulary, it can create a rift.
I love the use of that word perform as opposed to connect.
Yeah, it's perform. Yeah. So with your own words of how you want your clients to feel when they are with you or have opened an email, what are some of the ways in which you can help to create that experience for them with your own communication?
I haven't been doing a lot of emails, so I guess I got to go back to the drawing board because I'm kind of living in LinkedIn.
Okay, but you even said empowered. So if you want your people that you're going to outreach to or have these conversations with to feel empowered, what are some of the things that you can do to help them to feel that way? And Layla, I was asking you that because you were the one that said empowered.
Yeah, I'm writing some notes down to see, because I haven't been using email outreach in a while. So I'm wondering how to do that, how to bridge the gap.
Even on LinkedIn, let's say you see someone on LinkedIn and they've posted something, you can always comment or reach out directly about what it is that you've just read and help to empower them. You can do it by asking a powerful question. You can do it by reflecting back what you heard. You can ask a bridge question, that I see this, what comes next for you? I can really see these are the things that you're creating in the world. But there's a lot of ways, if you want people to feel empowered with you, by you, that you can do that even from the very first communication. Who else? What were some of the words that you wrote down? Errol, what did you write down? How do you want your potential clients to feel?
You took the words out of my mouth. Valued, validated, because on one of my tags is adding value, making a difference.
Yes. Yes.
So how do I do that? I do that one of the things by listening. One of the things my clients and friends tell me all the time is that, oh my goodness, you don't speak as much as I think you speak. You're listening, and sometimes I'm so quiet that are you still there, or are you hearing me or something? And I say, oh my goodness, let me tell you what you just said. And how does that make you feel? And if you were to rank these things, which would you say is most important to you?
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, oh my goodness, you were listening. I said, haha, that's my job to listen.
So you do a lot of reflective listening
I
and
do a lot.
a
Yes.
lot of use of silence and the
Yes.
pause in order to
Yes.
help your clients feel valued and validated.
Yes. Yes.
That's important. That's important. So these are things that you can ponder. And when you think about the feeling, then you think about the tone that you're going to bring to your conversations, both the emotional tone, your language that you're going to be using, your pacing to be able to help your clients feel that way. whatever that feeling is that you want to create. And at the end of the day, people make their decisions when they feel understood. When they feel understood and they feel like there will be value, hopefulness, like Nick is saying, there can be the gap can be bridged. And so that's what you want to create when you are doing your communication. How can you help them to see possibility? How can you help them to see what's right there in front of them and where they want to go? And how can you help them see that they get to bridge that gap? So it is in the communication. And then when we do this, it goes back to framework, which is what Layla was talking about is, well, what's this repeatable framework to do every time? And for me, it's always the connection first. Connection first, connecting to somebody, truly connecting to them can help them get that clarity of what they actually need. And knowing that every connection isn't always going to lead to a client. Sometimes we connect and then we realize this person does not need coaching, or this is not the right time for them to have coaching, but that's okay because we got the clarity around it. We don't want to leave a lot of open loops, with are we going to work together? Are we not going to work together? It's good to help your potential clients through solid communication know in themselves, is there a next step here? Or am I done with it? Is this not something that I want to do? And that any answer is okay. So remembering that coaching is not where we're talking people into it because of our performance. We don't want that. That doesn't help people in any way, shape, or form. That coaching is really about the connection and helping the person to get clarity. So connecting, that's one of the things on your framework. The next is after you have connected, be it by email first, then that connection call. If there is a moment and they are asking the questions about working together, invite them to a coaching session. And the reason for that is to continue to create the clarity. There's something that has happened in your 30-minute connection call. There's more to explore. Give them an actual coaching experience. It also shows your generosity. It shows that you're the kind of person then that can help them to be empowered, can help them to be calm, can help them to be hopeful, can help them with that value and validation. The gift of our time often makes people feel valued. It causes hopefulness in them for someone to say, oh no, let's coach. This is my gift to you. When they ask you how much it is, no, there's no fee. This is just for me to make sure that you really know what coaching is and for us to explore. Let's see if this is a good fit. I want you to have real clarity around it. That helps people in the slowdown. It really does. And then from there, depending on what happens, to communicate clearly what it looks like to work with you. Because when people do the thing, oh, just email me, that's not clear. That's not clear. You want to talk about it right then that, well, tell me what you're wondering. I want to make sure I'm answering the questions that you have about working together. And so we're slowing it down. We're communicating. We're not afraid to answer these questions. And then the objection part, the pieces, when we think of the objections, not as anything that's wrong with us or, oh my gosh, I didn't nail that. That instead, where does the slowdown in the communication still need to happen? Because with good communication, if the person is at the right readiness point, that's what leads to the coaching. Okay, where should we go deeper? Someone threw some questions out here. We can popcorn a little bit.
What do you do to slow down or kind of shift the focus of the call when someone, because I have multiple links on social media, right? Like I have links that have been existing out there for a year. Someone wants like a complimentary strategic clarity call or an exit planning session or, different or an introductory call. What happens when someone gets on the call and they think that's the free coaching call? Do you then slow down and still separate, or do you go forward if they're like, I really wanted to move forward with a coaching call now as the freebie?
So here's the way that I do them. I always tell them it's a two-step process. Today we're going to get we're going to get to know each other a little bit. We're going to see just energetically, does this feel like a good fit? And I want to learn more about your situation. That way, when we do our coaching call, we're both on the same page. So you can think of this as a level set connection call that we're getting to know each other. I want to hear what things have you tried? Where are you at? What are you hoping for? And then we can make sure that you're bringing to the coaching session the thing that really is the most important to you. And so that's the slowdown, Layla, of helping them to get clarity about what it really is instead of that rushing part. Oh, they want to be coached right now. They don't actually know what they want, but we do as the professional, and that's where we need to communicate it strongly.
And there's the framework.
And there's the framework.
And there's the framework for consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And inside of your clarity, you get the
Yeah.
clarity, you get the consistency.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that, Gretchen, you don't get clients who complain about that two-step process because they're still getting value. They're still getting heard and validated in that connection call. Is that fair to say?
That has been my experience. And here's the thing. Let's say that in the connection call, there's no chemistry, that this is not really someone that you want to coach or go deeper with, and maybe they're feeling the same way. You also don't have to offer the coaching call. So it's really to see, is any more time needed here? Is this someone that I would be excited to work with? But that very first connection, it should bring value and it should help them to feel, some of the things that you're wanting, a calmness, a hopefulness, for me, the validatedness, and that anything is possible, that they can get to the next part with what Layla was saying with empowerment. What else are you wonderful coaches wondering?
30 minutes, is that the sweet spot for the connection call for you? 30 minutes?
For me, that's a sweet spot because it's enough time to really find out, what is this person wanting? And you all know I send out those pre-questions, what are you wanting to create in the next year? What have you tried? Where are you feeling stuck? What they write on the email is often very different than what they end up saying. So we just go deeper. I really slow it down and I ask questions to get to the meat of whatever the topic is that they're saying, and to find out their why behind it. What's the motivation and why is this the right timing for this now? But 30 minutes is a good amount of time to be able to do that. And then for them to ask some questions too. There's momentum in it, like, oh, well, what is working together like? How much does this cost? And for me then to be able to go over the requirements and to invite them to a coaching session. Once in a while, it might go to 40 minutes, but almost always 30. So from tonight, with the ways that you want your clients to feel, what might you change in your communication?
I think I'm really starting to get more comfortable in my own voice and just making sure that that really comes through, because like going back to the beginning and what sets you apart as a coach and you attracting the right people is really making sure that I'm putting my personality forward as well to make sure it's a match. So just like getting a little bit out of this is how you do it and more like this is how I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that. Personality instead of performance, personality instead of proving, personality so that you can really serve, and that it is an experience, and it's either one that they want more of or not, but they won't know if you're not showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good, Kate. That'll be a good thing to practice, is really bringing you in.
Yeah.
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 Who else? What might this change? Go ahead, Nick.
I think it explains, this conversation explains why certain communication I feel more strongly about. And in one of my previous clients, I just kind of off the cuff, this person likes to text. And when we were just getting started, I said something, like, thank you for the contract. Let's see where we can go with X. And it was this emotional topic. And it felt really good. And I wasn't sure why, but now it makes perfect sense because it was completely in line with my desire to leave my clients with a sense of hope. And I think that's what they picked up from it as well.
Yeah.
So what I would change is, might have more of that in my communications.
The word alignment's really important. We know when we're out of alignment in our communication. I know when I have said something that it's not really something I say. It's not something that would naturally come out of my mouth. At the end, I'm like, I don't even really know why I said that. So being in alignment with who we are, that's where the connection can really happen. And if we are not in alignment with who we are and our personality and the way that we're going to serve, if we're trying to be like someone else, emulate something different, the prospective client can feel that every single time, that feeling of something is off will always be at the center of it. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that, Nick. Who else? What's something different that you might try to add into your communication?
I think I need to be a little bit more direct. We're the coaches, so providing that guidance is kind of why they're coming to us in the first place.
Yes.
So, like, I love the idea too of reminding ourselves that, like, if they're going to be our clients, great. We also have the opportunity to offer the coaching or not, right? It's equal. They have to meet us in the middle too. But being more direct, getting to the nose faster. I love what Layla said, like cutting to the nose faster so we could find the client that is a strong yes, and we'll know it.
And something there too, that communication creates clarity. That's the directness that you're really looking for. But when we don't communicate in a way that's direct and that our potential clients don't even know that there's really an offer or where to go next, that's where we can muddy the water. So we really are trying to help them get clear about, one, what do they want? What is it that they would even be coming to coaching for? And once they're clear on that, what would come next? How would this work?
Is that how you kind of defer the financial conversation? Because we haven't coached yet, so I don't know exactly what we're coaching to. So I wouldn't know duration, frequency, and all of that can impact the coaching package price. I'm not an hourly rate, so let's wait to see if we coach and see what we come up with to see what you really need support with. Is that how you defer?
That is how I defer. Now, if someone wants to know on that very first call pricing, what I'll say, I'll run through my requirements and then I'll say, we haven't coached yet, and that is a requirement, and I will know more once we've coached. But if I were to guess, my highest recommendation today in this moment would be whatever, 6 months, the investment is this, but I would like to make sure that we can finalize if that's the right number after we've really coached and I can get in there. Because if you don't tell a potential client the price if they're asking, they also can feel like that's really sneaky. Like, why won't they just tell me why they know what they charge? Why won't they just tell me? So I will say, it's sounding like it's probably this, but let's wait until we coach and then I can really give you my highest recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? What are you wondering? We're getting close to the end here. So if there's another question, burning desire, we should do it. Okay, if not, how about takeaways? What did you get from tonight? What are you leaving with?
I wrote down a framework.
So glad. I know you wanted one.
I wrote down 2-step process, 30-minute connection call, uncover needs, clarity, and issue, why behind the why and why now, process requirements, answer questions, invitation to coach, and schedule.
Good.
5 steps.
And the first step, it's really 6 steps. The first step is connect.
Connect.
So whatever that would be for your outreach and connection. And for you, you want to make sure that those outreaches feel empowered and empowering, because that was the word that you used of how you want your clients to feel. Yeah. Who else? What did you take tonight?
I like that takeaway of, like, how do I want them to feel from the beginning? Mine is that excited curiosity. So that means that I need to validate them, celebrate them, and then ask them the powerful questions so they feel that excitement and that curiosity of what comes next.
Good. Good. Who else?
Yeah, the alignment and, exactly what Lindsay just said, how I want the clients to feel and how that can be part of my language from day one.
Good. Here's something else too. You don't have to get it perfect. When we are really communicating well with someone, it's okay to say it wrong and to say, oh, it's not quite that, but it sounds something like this. Do I have it right? You don't have to worry about that performance part. Really, when we're connecting and we're human, even though we are the coach and we are the one that needs to leave the breadcrumbs and those sorts of things, you can show up real, and that's okay. You know, that's okay in your most professional self. All right, everybody. It was wonderful to see all of you. This will be up on YouTube within 2 days. You'll get the replay as well. And Nick, do you want to talk a little bit about September's first Wednesday? Nick's going to be our speaker that night.
Sure. So it's related to this, but maybe a bit earlier in the process, and I want to talk through some of the pitfalls and some tips for better enrollment. And we've all have, I think, our own experiences and advice to add to that. And there are a lot of them that we can get distracted with.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, and thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It was wonderful to see you. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out. You can go to the Coaching for Coaches page as well. You also can email me. And I hope you all have a really wonderful month.
Thanks, Gretchen. Thanks for us creating space for everybody.
Yeah, I love
Nice
having.
to see everyone. Nice to be in community with you guys. And thanks, everybody, for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Good to see you
Bye-bye.
tonight. Take care. Thanks, Layla.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.